What is up, guys? We're back in the shop with another one. So we got this thing back together. It's got a built motor program, like little street car, rod and piston type of deal. So we got this thing back together. It absolutely rips. It's an animal. Honestly, I just want to take care of this thing. So I never put the wiper cowl back on it because after 23 years, the wiper cowl that was on it was just, you know, the seal just gone and totally looked terrible. So I wanted to get some parts from BMW. I want to clean up, polish under there and stuff. So we got some new stuff and scanning the car, looking at it very closely, since it's like such a nice example of an E36 M3. There's just like anything that has a seal on this car, not the door seals and stuff like that, but like the external ones, they could be in better condition. So I'm just going ahead and just getting and replacing door seals, little clips, stuff like this. This clip broke at some point in time, so I got another clip coming for that, and really just little stuff, tiny little stuff like that across the whole car. And I want to replace stuff you see like this. Just continue to take care of her. She's treating me right, so I'm treating her right. But yeah, it's our first Brian Roche built S52. It's got our, I don't want to call it a stage one or anything like that, but it's just got a basic, you know, our basic rod and piston S52, nothing crazy. And you know, you've been out on it. I mean, the thing spools immediately, instantly, and pulls so hard to redline. It's ridiculous on 15 pounds. It doesn't, 93 octane, like.
Yeah, it gets the job done.
Yeah, so just want to take care of this thing. One of the cool things on this, actually, what is this? This guy, what is this guy? So, yeah, you've seen him. I had this set up together for a year, and I'll take this from you. I had this thing set up for a year, and you gotta kind of peek down there, but they're down there, and they're in there. Just after a year, they just completely get destroyed. There's like an E90 BMW part number that us E36 guys like to use, and you know, that whole kit from BMW, all said and done, you know, it's over $160, $170. We can throw that up on here, a screenshot of that current pricing. So I just said, let's just go ahead and make them titanium. So we've got a replacement stud with a flange nut and a separate washer if you care to use it. You don't have to. And it comes pre-packaged with the lubricant. You always want to use some copper anti-seize on anything that's titanium on titanium. Anything titanium period, you should use some copper anti-seize. But yeah, this kit is beautiful. It works great, and you know, it's a lifetime product. As long as you don't like lose one or do something, you know, stupid, these things will outlast the life of the car, that's for sure. And we got them on this, and then, yeah, well, that's pretty much the update on this for now. So let's go over to this. So, and we have these on this as well. The old 1230 horsepower S52. So, you know, we got some issues with this. I bought this car pre-built. It was built back in the day. And one of the things that the people that built it did was they tried to get a little bit more room on this side. So these engines, they slant layover on the exhaust side 31 degrees. That's a factory engine mount arms, factory configuration, just like that car. That's bone stock, you know, bone stock stuff in relation to the engine tilt. This one though, they made some custom arms and they jacked it up a little bit. And I'm not even sure, I never measured it when it was in the car. I'm kind of kicking myself, I wish I did, but just put a level across this flange here and that'll tell you. But anyways, so, man, I don't screw around. I went and I was putting this thing back together, and on the driver's side, I'm sorry, on the passenger side of the car, they've got this pretty serious beefy engine mount arm. And this is pretty common stuff on these E36s. To get any kind of room over there for like a bottom mount turbo setup, you always have to do these. So they had made this, and this thing is absolutely serious. But on the driver's side, this is also very common, but on the driver's side, they had just taken a factory one, and I haven't touched this. I haven't grinded on it, I haven't sanded on it, I haven't cleaned it, I haven't done nothing. So this is the way that it was on the car, and this is what I pulled off of it. So on this side, normally this comes down and is much longer here. So they cut this and sectioned it, and you know, they did that because they tried to cheat the motor up a little bit to get a little bit more room for, I'm sure, for exhaust manifold stuff, which is fine. I have no problem with that. That's awesome, in fact. I didn't have to do it. It came that way. Well, kicking myself. Hindsight's 20/20. So when we tore this thing down, these were the mounts that I pulled out of it. This was on this side, and this was on the side we were just talking about. This was on the driver's side. So I had known that the top of this was torn off. Poly mounts, 900 plus horsepower that they were running this thing around on 10 years ago. I figured no big deal. So with a lot more power now and wanting to race this car, at a very high level, I went and decided I took their mount and I built a jig for it, and this thing drops in the jig beautifully. This is what I ended up whipping up with some scrap metal I had laying around. So I make this thing and think, all right, awesome, cool. Now we're ready to throw this thing. Now we're ready to throw this on there, and now we're ready to throw this thing in the car. Well, I go and bolt this up, and it is nowhere close to fitting. So I'm like, what did I do wrong? I go back to the drawing board, bolt this in the jig, bolt that in the jig. My jig did not move at all. And so I'm trying to figure out what's happened here and trying to figure out what's happened. And I came to the conclusion that when I take the solid mounts off both sides, because I do have multiple solid mounts here, I've got these as well, these ones, the VAC ones. So I've got all these solid motor mounts. So when I take the solid motor mounts off and I put the polyurethane ones on, you can see that there's just enough deflection in those polyurethane mounts that you can fight this thing on the motor mounts. It's not right, but that, in hindsight, is the way that it was, and that is what we were dealing with. We just didn't know. So now that brings me to what I was explaining to you earlier, which is we need to do a little bit of race car engineering. So the fix, what are we gonna do here? So what we need to do is find our crankshaft center line, transfer that to the center line of the subframe, and take our center line, and then we can go outward from there. I don't feel any confidence in bolting it up the way that it was before with those arms, because I don't know. The problem is this side right? Is that side right? Or are they both wrong? Is the crankshaft center line in the wrong place? You know, is it twisted? I'm not sure, and that's what I can't take a guess on. So these mounts that you see on there, the black powder coated, these arms, these are for when I built the white car, the original elusive beast of the Northeast project. And that deal, I had moved the engine up myself to 10 degrees. It was not 0 degree like a 2JZ, it was not completely vertical. but it wasn't 31 degrees either, it was 10. And I did that with my car, plumb bobs, and I actually made a jig that bolted to the crankshaft and rotated the engine on the center line of the crankshaft. And I did testing with some other things, with drain back and stuff like that, and I actually made sure that I could do that and get away with the factory wet, you know, oiling system and not cause myself any problems. So I know that bolting this up with my 10-degree mounts, you know, the subframe is not parallel to the floor the way that it needs to be for this car, for this setup, but I do know that the crankshaft center line with these mounts to this subframe is correct. And it does bolt up, as you can see, without fighting it. Well, there's a solid mount on the other side and then this one, which is basically solid. So it does bolt up. And now we can use this one to find our crankshaft center line on the subframe, and then we can go ahead and then bolt the original passenger side motor mount in, check center line, and then we can bolt in the driver side and check center line. I'm hoping one of them is correct, and honestly, I'm really hoping this one's correct, because this is for the driver side, and this just takes a lot more time to build something nicely for the driver side because of the steering mount arm and just because the you know, natural orientation of it. This one is rather, I mean, just, you know, you can just look at the two. This one is just a lot easier and faster. This is just much faster to build because of the layout of it. This one is not as quick to build. So that's what we got to do. The project is basically at a halt. We were going to throw the motor, well, we're going to mock the oil pan up since I changed to an S54 pan and pickup, an oil pump setup. I need to get a drain back. I need to get an oil drain back for the turbo welded in here. So this started as just a simple throw the pan on, we'll weld a bung in, to, hey, thankfully I did. I said, hey, just check to make sure the subframe bolts on with my engine mount arms. And thank God I did, because we would have been fighting this thing real bad trying to get this in the car. You know how that goes. So could you imagine with it being an inch off and us thinking that it was correct?
There's not a chance.
It would have been bad. That would have been a bad situation.
Burn this thing to the ground.
Oh, for sure. This would have been, I can see it now. We'd have been screaming at each other and, shit. So, yeah, that's where we're at, man. A big blow there to the ego on that one. I had thought for sure making that slick jig that I did and making everything as perfect, copying the parts that were on the car as perfect as they were, and just throwing some solid motor mounts in. You know, I didn't really see any problem there, but sometimes, you know, yeah, we run into these things. So we're gonna end this off here, but first we'll give you a sneak peek. I haven't shown anybody this on the internet, so we're gonna throw it in here, and I'll give you a brief glance at the motivation and why we just keep going endlessly on this, because we put some time and effort into some stuff back here, and this stuff came out beautiful, and I want to use it really bad. So first look under here at some serious hardware. And furthermore, down here, some serious hardware right there. I'm going to tell you guys right now, there is some stuff inside of those motors right there that nobody has, and well, that doesn't look normal. So there's your first hint. But yeah, so we've got our ducks in the row, and we thought that we'd be out there swinging by now, but you know, it's just how it goes right now with the supply chain, and we're gonna stay hard at it and sort out these these little problems here, and we'll be back at you guys with another one shortly. Peace out.